Hello. So, I am planning on building this shed. It's just a standard aluminum shed. I'm going to put it over in the corner so I can actually have a place to store some of the stuff that is starting to clutter up my house. The first steps are to get myself the base going, which I've gotten going so far. I haven't finished yet. If I can... where's the page? Oh well. I can show you the bits. So we bought a bunch of 4x4 rails that I cut with beveled edges and covered with roofing tar. That's basically a sealant because it's basically going to be lying on the ground, well, on that tarp over there. I'll show you that in a bit. So it's kind of important to keep it protected. They don't want to towards the edge to edge to edge. It'll end up being 74 by 81 frame. And then over there, more roofing tar covered 2x4s. These will be cut down to fit inside the square frame, and that is what will hold up the weight of the baseboard in the shed itself. Baseboard, as you saw, is over here. That's about a little more than half of it, because again, it's a little less than 7 feet, so this is an 8-foot board, so it's going to be cut down to length, and that'll be more than half the space. The other bit of the space is this. I only covered like 2/3 of it in tar because I ran out of tar. But I don't need the rest of it in tar because these are 4 feet wide and the thing is like 6.5 feet long. So 4 feet there, 2.5 here, and that's fine. I'll lop off this bit. So it doesn't matter that I wasn't able to cover the whole thing with tar. This was the tar can, and it is now an empty tar can. The cross struts will be attached to the 4x4s with these little framers. The framers hang on the 4x4s like so, click, and the 2x4 goes in that notch. Fairly straightforward there. And once the thing is assembled, well, once the frame bottom is assembled anyway, we'll drag the entire deal over here to where it's going. This tarp represents where I'm putting the shed. With pavers 74 wide by 84 long, results in a space that looks way smaller than it should. I mean, I measured, so I mean this is correct. But seeing it laid out like that, looks a lot smaller than all those rails and stuff on the house would give you the impression. But this is where the shed is going. And it'll be big enough to store a lawnmower and some garden tools and stuff, and I'll finally have space in my garage. So I'll be back next time once we've assembled the bottom, and we'll show that off and then get to work on the metal shed part. Alrighty then, bit of an update on the thing. I have assembled the frame, glued and screwed the corners, attached all these cross beams with these bracket hinge deals, or hangers I believe they're called. And now I'm just getting to the part where I put in the plywood. That board sits on most of that half. This one here will be cut to length to put on this half. I'm getting close to finishing the bloody frame. And here's what it looks like. I finished putting the board on top. I painted it, and you can see the tar around the bottom to keep the underside from ever rotting. Pavers just keep it from sinking to the dirt. Paver and spacer cinder block, and paver and 2 spacer pavers in order to make this thing flat. And it's nice and sturdy. One can walk around on here without any trouble. So, next step, which I might do tomorrow because I'm hot, is going to be to actually build the shed. The shed is in this box on this cart. Aero storage, this thing right here. But now it's a bunch of bits and a bunch of bits. Soon all these bits will be connected to all the other bits via these third bits on that thing. Alright, these pieces here look jack diddly like with the picture. I wouldn't be in any way sure if I had the right pieces if it didn't call out a serial number up here that is etched directly onto them. So at least it's pretty definitive that I have the right parts. It still looks nothing like their pictures. Or I mean, it looks sort of like the pictures, but not enough differentiated from anything else, really. Oh well. This is what I hate. See how this looks? It's part 10541 and another part 10541. It shows 3 holes close together. You're going through the middle hole in each case, with the inner hole being tiny. And on the outside, it shows hole on the side, hole on the top. This is 10541, thus making it abundantly clear that this is the same part they're talking about. In the center, I was able to find a hole, and hole way farther apart than it looks. And on the edge, there's a hole in the top. There is no hole in the front, as the picture would seem to indicate hole in the top and hole in the front. It's just not there. I'm wondering if the instructions were written in a slightly older version and weren't updated with the slight design change. I mean, I can still build the thing, but it's really irritating when you have a picture that blatantly doesn't match a part, even if it's in a fairly minor way. Because you just want... If things don't line up, you aren't sure if you're doing it right, you know what I mean? To counteract when I was saying something negative earlier, this one is actually a pretty good little design thing they did. They say put this to here so the holes will... Put this thing in like that so the holes align, but it's like, do I put it in like that or like this? Because it's symmetrical. You know? Except for holes on the top, which look different. Then I realized, wait, the 6 holes have to align, and this one hole is offset from those 3 on one side, but not the other. So it has to go a certain way to align. Hey, at least they made this one so you can't put it in wrong. So that's good. And we have a direct typo. The parts lists the door track as 9396. The door track part is labeled 9396. 63 for some reason, I don't know. The instructions say door track 9395. It's probably kind of hard to see on your screen right now. I'm trying to zoom it right, but whatever. It says 9395 very clearly. This definitely looks like it does with the really... You think it's blurry on your screen. It's blurry in real life too. The printer they have here has a DPI of like frickin' 40. So it looks maybe a malformed stitch. It really looks like a 5 to me. And now the ring panel is on top of the board. We now have the runner assembly for the entire base set here. For the most part, this one went into the other just fine. There was another slight variation where the sides show a side piece come down on top of the front piece, which is impossible because of the shape, but that doesn't really matter. It's a running theme. There's some minor variations that aren't really problematic between the instructions and this. I would continue, but since things are getting a little dark with the sun going down, this might be a natural stopping point. I now have the frame on the baseboard and some pieces cut out over there, and I will have to get to continuing this later. Well, I have most of a shed constructed, or most of the walls anyway. I still need to do things like the roof. Framing, barriers, slidey things. The one issue I have with this construction is who the hell thought that was a good idea? This is a wall. I can't exactly reach around the other side. You literally have to put the bolt in, rest it there, come around, put the nut in, clamp it with a vice grip, then go back around and screw the bolt in, all while hoping you don't push the bolt out before you get to the screwing part. Now, admittedly, this would be a lot easier if there were 2 people here, but since I'm doing this alone, that was those things are a freaking beast to get in. And yes, you're supposed to put the bar on first, then the wall, and the bar blocks that. So other than that though, the wall seems to be going well. And when I have time, I'll do the sides. I have the panels, but I don't have them in yet. And then presumably after that, it'll be either the roof or the door, and then the roof or the door, whichever one isn't done. Not sure how the roof is going to work. Do I build the scaffolding and then put it up and then put the panels, or do I build the roof and then put the entire roof up? Well, I guess we'll figure that out when we come to it. And we have walls. We have all the walls. No door yet and no roof yet, but walls. The rest of the wall installations went reasonably smoothly, as did this roof installation with this I-beam. The only real noticeable downside is the gables. These triangle thingies here. Easily the most shittily constructed component of this entire machine. Was the back went in alright, but kind of warped in the middle. This one, you can see the bowing there. You can see this thing being all wobbly. It bows out. These things, I really had to freaking force them in order to make them fit. And there's no other place for them to fit. It's not like these side beams where it's two things together, and depending on exactly how the screws go in, the overall length can be affected by like 1/32 of an inch or something. That crossbar is one solid pre-manufactured bit. There's only one hole for each of these things, and only one hole in the bar for them to go in. So I mean, there's no question about where it gets installed. It just doesn't fit right. The gables all have to be forced with a reasonable bit of muscle to make them all fit. Especially when I had to get those bolts through. Those holes did not want to line up. Let me tell you. But now that they are lined up, and my little thingy that is going to have all the roof panels through these tiny little holes is in, and I can get started on the roof, which has 6 very big panels. I don't know how well you can see them from here, but they're all over there. Of all those 6, each one of them is different. They are apparently different panels, each of them. And I need to make sure I get them all in the exact right spot. Otherwise I will have an issue. And I'm going to need that ladder. So, wish me luck. Let's see if I can get the roof in now. I got the roof on the shed now. For the most part it worked, but there is one issue that I'm going to call a direct build error on their part. On the edge here, there's these screws that you're supposed to put in. They sink into the crossbar underneath and hold it in. For the most part these work, but there's one on the other side and frickin' 5 on this side where the hole is just not there. There's supposed to be a little tapped hole in there to put a screw into, and it just isn't there. Now it's not there entirely. If I open this up, you can see the hole. It's just so far off from where that is that no amount of warping and stretching will move these things into place. There's another one, it's there, but completely off. So this one I might be able to force it just enough to get something in there. Actually, I can see it at least here. So look how far off that is. Lots of physical stretching would be required to get anything to go in. Oh, which is why I brought this. Not that. That's why I brought this. It is a drill. I'm going to drill these holes, drill some extra holes, and then put screws into them. That way it'll hold together properly. And the roof is done. All the ridge pieces are in, all the extra screws fastened. There were ones like before, we had a really awkward position bolt that was not exactly easy to do alone. I literally went and got a dumbbell and put it on the roof to hold that down, so I was able to put the nut on without just springing back up because the metal doesn't fit together quite right. But the thing is together and assembled, and what I have to do later, probably tomorrow, because it's starting to get dark again, or it's starting to get past 5 p.m. again. We're accurately past 6:40. Okay. Time for dinner, and tomorrow I will be getting to this door issue. And once that's done, the shed will be complete. And I'm done. The shed is completed. All the roofing is in, the doors slide just fine. There was some oddness and a couple of things that I didn't like. This plastic cover thing here, pretty clear where it goes, but I don't remember the instructions actually mentioning it. Just trying to figure that out on my own. But other than that, the thing is together. You have the stripping and all these huge amounts of screws, but finally I have a shed. I have somewhere to store stuff other than my garage. So, as far as review goes, it seems sturdy, it seems square, it works, the doors open and close. It's a competent shed. My only complaint, which I think is pretty clear that I've made it a few times already, is that sometimes the instructions are a teeny bit unclear, and when we got to the roof parts, they didn't quite line up right. The triangle bits and the sidings, I had to do a fair bit of forcing to make it all go together right. But eventually it did go together. The walls and everything else went together fine, so it was mostly just the roof that needed to be forced into place. And a few extra holes needed to be drilled. When forcing it, I could not force it far enough to make the holes line up. And it was just a problem with the roof. And I was very careful to line up all 6 of those things in order and put them up the way it says, so I guess there's just some shaping issues with the roof pieces. Oh, that'll be the end of this. The Arrow Shed.